Do you still believe you're fully alive? That everything you think, desire, and feel comes from yourself? How naive. Most of those who breathe have already died inside, only they haven't noticed. The self has been shredded into pieces and sold in small packages of dopamine, status, and distraction. No one warned you that part of your lucidity was gradually silenced, like an organ amputated under social anesthesia. You don't feel pain because the system intoxicates you, and that is precisely what makes it efficient. It kills you without your scream. We live like smiling sleepwalkers, and behind that smile lies the funeral of introspection, of doubt, of true identity. The soul doesn't vanish all at once. It is dismantled, silenced, discredited. Today, people no longer ask themselves, who am I? But rather, how are they seeing me? This is not life. It is performance. The spectacle has replaced existence. And you, who may still hear this video with some residue of awareness, need to ask yourself, how many parts of you have already died, and you didn't even notice? Look around. You are surrounded by digital zombies, eyes glued to screens, fingers addicted to swiping, brains conditioned by notifications. Dopamine has become a religion, and its priests are called algorithms. Likes are blessings, followers are status, and the feed is the temple where everyone prays. But there is no transcendence in that, only conditioning. Pavlov smiles from his grave. He dreamed of dogs salivating at the sound of a bell. We have gone further. We salivate at pixels, and we call that freedom. You think you consume content, but it is the content that consumes you. Each scroll erases a bit of your deep attention. Each click numbs your capacity to contemplate. Thought has become reaction. Reflection has become reflex. We live in a chemical amusement park where emotional anesthesia is sold in the form of short videos, motivational phrases, and reels with soothing soundtracks. Dopamine has triumphed over truth. And if you still feel discomfort about this, perhaps not everything in you has died. Introspection, that forgotten art, has been replaced by spectacle. We no longer seek to understand who we are. We seek an audience. We no longer ask, what do I feel? But how much engagement does this get? The soul has become a stage, and every emotion must be packaged, filmed, and published. The inner gaze has been crushed by the external gaze. We no longer live to know ourselves, but to show ourselves. The self has been replaced by an avatar, optimized, filtered, edited, and with each like received, the true self drifts further from the mirror. There is something profoundly tragic in this, the replacement of consciousness by performance. No one wants to be anymore. Everyone wants to appear. External validation has become an existential currency. Silence, once the cradle of revelations, now causes panic. People prefer distraction over truth because truth hurts, and the system knows this. That is why it trains us with instant rewards, so that we never have time to confront ourselves, and the person who does not confront themselves is merely an operant reflection. But there is something even more perverse. Ignorance is no longer an accident, it is a project. The system does not fear the aggressive fool, but the silent, lucid one. That is why ignorance is cultivated as a tactic of power. Knowledge is replaced by noise, doubt by slogans, study by inflamed opinion. Everyone has a voice, but nobody has silence. And knowledge, which demands time and humility, is crushed under the weight of instant certainties. When everyone thinks they know everything, the true sage seems invisible, or worse, inconvenient. Do you realize what has been done? They destroyed critical thinking and put in its place a theater of wisdom, ready-made phrases, stage gurus, spirituality diluted in 15-second videos. Truth has been converted into a product, conflict into an algorithm. No one wants to think anymore. They just want to feel right. And that suffices to keep them manipulable. Because the ignorant with an ego is the perfect slave, they believe they are free, when in fact, they only learn to memorize colorful chains. And thus, we arrive at the ultimate perversion, programmed desire. You think you want what you want, but that too was decided by someone. Someone who knows your hunger, your voids, your weaknesses. Advertising, algorithms, emotional narratives. All of this quietly stitches what you will desire tomorrow. We no longer dream of freedom, we consume its image. And what seems like choice is, in reality, a script. Every desire not confronted at its origin is a chain disguised as will. True freedom begins where you dare to ask, why do I want this? And that question, so simple and yet so dangerous, is avoided at all costs. Because if you discover your desire isn't yours, your whole life collapses. The system doesn't need to stop your revolution. It need only keep you wanting what keeps you small, and you accept it, with a smile, with a purchase, with a click. Because modern slavery has no chains. It has illuminated shop windows and 24-hour deliveries. We live in a cult of speed. Everything must be now, fast, urgent. Slowness has become a synonym for failure. But no one asks, where are we running to? Because there is no time. We are all swallowed by a manufactured haste, trained to confuse acceleration with importance, and thus we lose depth. The art of waiting, of contemplation, of maturation, all trampled by immediacy. Time ceased to be a flow, it became a tyrant. And you obey it like a servant, always anxious for something that has lost meaning before arriving. Haste is the new oppression. And the most tragic part, you take pride in it. You say you're in the hustle, as if that were noble. But you don't realize this constant urgency destroys your ability to feel, to think, to exist with density. The profound demands time, and the system denies you that. Because he who has time thinks, he who thinks confronts, and he who confronts is useless. That is why they sell you speed as a virtue, but it's just distraction, a runaway train heading toward emptiness. And in this scenario of sterile rush, rest becomes subversion. Yes, resting today is revolutionary, not the anesthetized rest of scheduled vacations, but lucid idleness, the silence that disturbs, the pause that confronts. When you refuse to produce, to respond, to accelerate, you say, I refuse to play this game. And the system, which feeds on your hurry, hates that, because the person who truly rests begins to perceive, and who perceives begins to break the gears simply by not moving. It's no coincidence that true rest has become a luxury. It's not sold, it's feared, because in conscious repose dangerous questions arise. In voluntary silence, ideas emerge that don't fit slogans. Stopping today is bolder than protesting, because the person who stops courageously breaks the cycle. He steps off the treadmill, he breathes, he sees, and then understands. Being useful to the system is dying slowly, but being useless by choice is being reborn. If you've felt this, like this video now. Lucidity needs allies, even if in silence. But be careful, the system knows there are risks. That is why it created a new enemy, the simulacrum of critical thinking. Today, even rebellion has been packaged. Catchphrases, enlightened influencers, authenticity, coaches. They sell truths that are soft, digested, anesthetized. A thought that doesn't wound, doesn't transform, doesn't demand sacrifice. Spirituality has been plasticized, philosophy turned into an Instagram carousel. Thinking has become light entertainment, and therefore harmless. This farce is more dangerous than ignorance, because it offers the illusion of awakening. The common person believes they have become wise because they repeat impactful phrases, because they bought a book they never read, because they follow profiles speaking of consciousness between one advertisement and another. But wisdom without discomfort is placebo, and the system loves placebos. They soothe, sell, and keep everything exactly as it is. Truth, on the other hand, has no marketing. It bites, it rips, it transforms, or it is not truth. But amid the farce, there are still deserters, men and women who do not shout, do not argue, do not appear. They read in silence, they observe, they wait, they are. The insurgents of lucidity. They do not want a stage, they want clarity. They do not want followers, they want consistency. They do not get involved in the spectacle because they already understood. Whoever shines too brightly burns inside. The new revolution will not be made with shouts. It will be made by eyes that see deeply. And each time those eyes meet, the system trembles. They are out there, silent, disconnected, strange, maladjusted in noisy environments, antisocial to the blind, but deeply committed to the only war that matters, the war for the mind. They do not get distracted because they have already lost too much. They do not argue because they have already understood too much. They do not seek acceptance. They seek inner territory. They are rare, they are dangerous, and they are invisible. If you feel you are part of this, subscribe to this channel. The silent rebellion needs names the algorithm cannot map. We have reached the final frontier, the algorithm. It is the new prophet, the new master, the new watcher. It decides what you see, what you feel, what you think you desire. It does not impose, it suggests, and you obey. Freedom has been redesigned in the form of a feed. You swipe and call that choice. But every choice has already been pre-approved. The algorithm is the system smiling. It does not imprison you, it entertains you. And while you smile, it writes your new identity based on what you watch in silence. Do you want to start freeing yourself? Question what you consume. Question what addictively hooks you. Question even the videos that make you feel clever. True sovereignty begins at the filter. You don't need to distance yourself from the world, but you need to choose how you will dance with it. And if you are not the one setting the rhythm, someone else will. Thinking for yourself today is the greatest act of power. And that is why it is so rare, because it is hard work, demands silence, severs ties, and destroys illusions. But whoever crosses that abyss and no longer returns the same, have you noticed how everything was designed to prevent you from stopping? The system fears the moment you drop your phone and face the void, because there, in the space without stimulus, without likes, without sound, danger is born. Real thought. Thought that disturbs, that questions, that refuses to be molded. It is in that silence that questions arise without easy answers, and the person who begins to ask those questions never returns to the starting point. They break the bond with illusion. That is why the algorithm intoxicates you. It knows you cannot bear your own naked mind, so it offers distractions, useless debates, daily doses of inconsequential indignation, all to prevent you from re-encountering the only thing that can free you, the creative void. That void the ancients called the desert, where the self rebuilds without an audience. But you flee from it as one flees death, and while you flee, you continue dancing to the code, thinking you are in control. The tragedy is not that we are manipulated, it is that we like the manipulation, that we find beauty in captivity because it has Wi-Fi, is comfortable, is customizable. Modern prison allows you to choose the color of the walls, but not the direction of the door. You feel free because you can complain, because you can post your frustration, because you can express yourself. But all of that has already been foreseen, calculated, absorbed. Your revolt already has a t-shirt, your criticism already has a soundtrack, your pain already has a song on Spotify. That is why nothing changes. Do you want freedom? Begin by refusing the rituals of disguised obedience. Refuse the haste that leads nowhere. Refuse desires born in the womb of marketing. Refuse opinions you repeat without knowing where they came from. And above all, refuse yourself, the version of you trained to please, to perform, to distract yourself. That is the part of you that must die, so the rest can live. Because whoever does not kill the character will never find the author. I did not come here to please you. I came to wound you, with words as sharp as scalpels, opening the flesh of certainties and exposing the worms of self-deception. If you feel anger, discomfort, denial, it is because you are still alive somewhere. Spiritual numbness can be reversed, but only if there is courage. Courage to look within and see what is rotten. Courage to admit that much of what you call I is merely a reflection of others, and that freedom, if real, will cost your current identity. This pain you feel now, that tension between what you are and what you could be, is the beginning. The system wants you to avoid it, to cure it with a light video, a distraction, some self-help fluff. But I tell you, embrace it, stay with it, let it transform you. Because only those who allow themselves to burn inside are worthy of rebirth. The rest will continue living a life they did not choose, desiring what they do not understand, thinking they are awake when they still dream of invisible chains. Are you still here? Then perhaps you deserve to hear this. The true revolution does not begin collectively, but in intimate refusal. When you decide to stop dancing to the rhythm of the crowd. When you choose silence even if it hurts. When you disconnect, not as escape, but as a gesture of sovereignty. The person who learns to be alone and lucid becomes dangerous, because they no longer need the system to feel whole. And someone who needs nothing cannot be controlled. And that person begins to do things that frighten. They think before speaking. They listen before reacting. They desire with awareness. They rest with presence. They read, not to seem intelligent, but to rebuild themselves. They slow down and thereby see what no one else sees. They become selective with everything, with what they consume, with what they respond to, with whom they relate. And the world, which lives off haste, noise, and need, begins to treat them as a threat. Because the lucid today is the new subversive. Lucidity, my dear, is a burden. You will not be applauded for awakening. You will be ridiculed, ignored, hated, because your mere presence exposes others' lies. The lucid person does not need to argue. They disturb simply by existing. The blind hate them because they see. The slaves despise them because they do not bow. The distracted reject them because they walk in silence, but they persist, because they understood something few have. Truth does not need an audience. It needs only courage. And if you wish to be part of this new lineage of people, not heroes but conscious, know this. There are no medals, no applause. There is solitude, there is rupture, there is rebirth. But above all there is peace, a fierce, wild, non-negotiable peace. The peace of one who no longer depends, who no longer pretends, who no longer dances to others' music. And when you reach that place, you will see the world for what it is. A theater where few dare to step off the stage and face the silence of the empty audience. There begins true freedom. If you have borne this video until here, you are not an ordinary person. Perhaps you are still confused, perhaps in conflict, perhaps furious. But you are waking up, and that is enough. Like this video if you felt something real inside you. Subscribe if you are ready to burn your masks and walk naked, not in body, but in soul. Share this content with those who still have a flame in their chest, because we are not here to please the algorithm. We are here to defeat it. Now go, but go with different eyes. Question what you watch, what you desire, what you repeat. Abandon what keeps you small. Embrace what tears you apart, because only what hurts heals. And remember, thinking for yourself today is an act of war. And if you have the courage for that, then we will meet on the other side, where the free recognize each other, even in silence.